As I said at the top of the program, we're going to focus today on teacher pay in North Carolina. In campaign ad after campaign ad, Governor McCrory and the Republican legislators have touted pay increases for teachers they say will increase average teacher pay above $50,000 next year. Democrats, including Attorney General Roy Cooper, who is running against Governor McCrory, have questioned the claims and say the governor and the legislature have actually shortchanged teachers and public schools. Joining us for the first segment to help us try to get to the bottom of all this is Mark Binker, a reporter with WRAL News in Raleigh, and Alexis Schauss, Director of School Business Administration at the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. Thank you both for joining us today. Now, Mark, I'm going to start with you. One of the roles you play here at WRAL is a fact checker, which is kind of a cottage industry now, it seems, in politics. And you did a fact check on the $50,000 claim back in August. Tell me a little bit about what you found.
Well, when you're asking about the $50,000 claim, you're really asking three questions. Does the math work? Does it reflect people's lived experience? And what's behind that number? And yeah, the math sort of works across the state, but the next question is, why does it work? One of the reasons it works is because local school systems like counties chip in to teacher salaries. So when the governor or when the state legislature say, hey, we raised teacher pay to an average $50,000, that we is a much bigger we than just the state government. It includes county governments and county taxpayers. The other question about kind of lived teacher experience, we hear from a lot of teachers say, I've been teaching a long time and I'm nowhere near 50,000. Well, it matters a lot where you're teaching because there are counties that can't afford to pay those supplements. And there are counties like Wake County or Chapel Hill that pay more supplements, employ more teachers. There are counties out west where teachers have a tendency to stay for a longer time, so they tend to be at the higher end of the range scale. So there's a lot that $50,000 figure is sort of masking in a lot of ways that it doesn't reflect real lived teacher experience in some counties.
Right. So you gave it a yellow light, if I recall?
Okay. Yellow light, which basically says, yeah, it's a right number, but there's lots of context missing. And this is really something we see a lot with anything that boils down a really complicated concept. I mean, teacher salary is something, you have thousands of teachers with lots of different salary points and thousands of points of data. Anytime you see a single number, kind of boil that down and you say, this describes it all, klaxons should go off in your head because it's always more complicated, more context there.
And that's why we have Alexis here today, now Alexis has been described as the guru of teacher pay at the Department of Public Instruction.
It's true, you have to climb a mountain to go see it.
I've always wanted to be a guru, but we have the expert. And one of the things that Alexis is going to do is to help me and Mark, but mostly help our viewers understand how does teacher pay work, sort of what are the components of it, the context that Mark was just talking about. And we've got some graphics we're going to put up on screen. If you can sort of help us walk through sort of what the what the pieces are.
Sure, be happy to.
Okay. So the very first piece is the base salary.
Correct. So the teachers in North Carolina are paid off a state salary schedule that is authorized by the General Assembly. And part of that base is, it starts at $35,000 for a bachelor level teacher and goes up to $51,000. On top of that, there are increments based on the degree that the teacher has or a credential that the teacher has.
Right.
So the graphic here will show that 70%, approximately 70% of the teachers are paid on the bachelor's level schedule. And then on top of that, a local salary supplement. So
the local supplements is sort of the next piece that most teachers get something from the local counties.
Correct. So some, as Mark described, some counties can afford to pay a local supplement in the higher ranges. And we have approximately 7 that have no local supplement. So those teachers are paid on the state base.
Right, so we're going to show on the screen the next block is the local supplement. The state average, $3,870 across North Carolina, but as you pointed out, 7 counties have 0. Now the third block that just added was National Board Certification, which is a professional credential that teachers actually invest themselves in getting. How does that affect salary?
So a teacher with National Board Certification, we have 12% who are actually eligible to be paid the supplement of 12%. We do have more teachers that have that certification, but they may not be in a position that is eligible for the pay differential. So they get an additional 12% above the base bachelor pay.
Right, and then the last piece of the chart, if you will, is master's degree.
Yes, so a teacher with an education master's degree is eligible for 10% differential above that base bachelor schedule. This has, a teacher has to have started or completed that master's degree by August 1, 2013. So new teachers with a master's degree after that point are not eligible for the 10%.
Right, so that was eliminated by the General Assembly in 2013, but any teacher who already had one or were in a program were grandfathered in.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's when Mark, you mentioned the sort of lived experiences, and I'll get back to you, but that's, I think what I heard when the commercial started running, it was almost around the Olympics time. So all of a sudden there were a lot of people watching TV, watching the Olympics, which was great, but there were all these ads. And that's what we kept hearing was we were getting emails and calls and tweets about, I don't make that, and my salary's gone down. I'm actually not making as much as I was making even before the recession.
Sure. Well, and $50,000 is a handy political number. It's a psychologically satisfying, nice round number, and 50,000. And it has the virtue of probably being in the ballpark of right mathematically. And what it's communicating, it's not communicating to teachers, right? Those ads are talking to voters.
Right.
And they're saying, look, teachers get this average salary. Into North Carolina, where the median household income is somewhere in the mid $30,000 range, that probably sounds like a really good salary. So it's a question of what you're communicating, in this case, a very sort of broad brush figure, and to whom you're communicating. You're talking to voters. Those ads are not talking to teachers. They're not saying, hey, teachers, you're going to make $50,000 this year. It's talking to voters saying, this is what we're doing for these teachers.
Alexis, as we were talking about, I want to sort of drill a little bit on the local supplements, because it really does make a huge difference. We're broadcasting today here in Wake County, the highest average supplement in the state, just under $7,000 on top of that. So, which is kind of confusing to people when they hear that the average teacher will make more than $50,000 when the state pay scale actually tops out at just about $50,000 or $51,000 now. So that makes a pretty big difference when you've got a county like a Wake or a Mecklenburg, which are where a lot of teachers, a lot of veteran teachers are. Kind of skews the numbers a little bit, right?
It certainly does. We have 100 of the 115 school districts. Actually, their average supplement is below the state average. Charlotte, Mecklenburg, and Wake County combined make up about 20% of the teaching force. So with Wake County, I believe at the top of their scale, they're providing over 23% above the state base. It does pull that average up where it can be confusing and misleading. We have 62% of our teachers are in districts that are in below the average. Which
is exactly why it explains when you go around schools and they say, I don't make $50,000. If they're outside of Wake County, they're probably right. So thank you both. This is really helpful. You can see why there is a lot of context. Now, when we as we go to break, see if you can answer this question. What percentage of North Carolina teachers have a second job?